Hello and welcome to Tech Latest from Nikkei Asia, where we bring you fresh updates from the Asian tech sector. I'm your host Shotaro Tani, and in this week's episode, we dive into how and why China is racing ahead in robovans despite the many remaining challenges. With me to discuss the topic is Wataru Suzuki, our Shanghai correspondent. Wataru, welcome to the show.
Hi Shotaro, what's up?
What's up? So Wataru, I understand you went on a business trip to Shenzhen, specifically to the Futian railway station in Shenzhen. Just explain to the listeners what you saw there.
Yeah, so Futian is a very big underground train station in Shenzhen because it has both the subway and the high-speed railway stations combined. And there's like a wide corridor linking the two platforms, and that's where I saw these robovans. I think there were 9 of them, like parked in a row outside of like a restaurant. And then at night, around 7:30, 8 p.m., some people wearing uniforms started taking big boxes out of like a warehouse and putting them in the back of vehicles. These vans are much smaller than like cars or trucks. And then these vans would load these boxes onto the cars and then start moving towards the gate of the subway station. So they were very slow, maybe a little bit faster than walking speed, and the whole trip is also quite short. It's like just a couple minutes by walk. But what was interesting was that the people, just the passengers, people walking around when all of this was happening, and the vehicles would like warn that people should keep a 2-meter distance. But people, of course, stop and take pictures, videos, etc. So the cars would stop when people come in front of them and start moving again when they go. And all of this kind of happened pretty seamlessly. So that was quite impressive. When they reach this gate, the boxes would unload automatically, and the staff would carry them onto the subway platform and actually carry them onto the subway. And the train would head towards this logistics hub, and from there, the boxes will be distributed to their final destinations.
So they have a dedicated logistics railway?
No, this is the subway that normal people ride. So it's kind of interesting that these boxes they're carried onto the actual trains along with passengers.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So this whole operation is run by a Chinese delivery company called SF Express, and they are using robovans built by the startup called Neolix. What I was told by one of the staff there was that the aim of this operation is to utilize the unused space of the subway trains. So when this is all happening around 8 p.m., 9 p.m., there's not a lot of passengers on these trains, and it seems like they're trying to make use of this kind of extra space inside of the trains to deliver stuff more cost effectively and also like efficiently.
I mean, you said that people in the Futian railway station, they were taking photos and pictures, videos of the robovans. That kind of suggests that robovans, the autonomous logistics vans, they're not that prevalent in China. Is that the case, or are they actually quite prevalent?
Yeah, they're not widespread. You won't see them like randomly on public streets, especially in the city centers, because level 4 autonomous driving, where you don't need a driver, is still in testing phase in China. So these trials are essentially happening in limited locations and limited kind of scenarios. If you think about like a subway corridor, it's the ground is very smooth. There's people, but it's less chaotic than a public road, right? So these kind of trials are expanding very quickly across China. Neolix said last month that it deployed 10,000 vehicles, which it said was the first one ever to do that. It also just said it raised $600 million in their Series D round. But there's others, like this company called Zilos, which is another startup. They essentially claim that they also hit the 10,000 vehicle milestone. They also just raised $100 million from investors led by Ant Group, which is the financial affiliate of Alibaba. There's also another smaller startup called Rhino AI, and there's also companies that develop self-driving technology for passenger vehicles, like WeRide. They're also working on autonomous delivery solutions too. So it's interesting how, even though the technology is still in development testing phase, there's so many companies working on this technology and raising a lot of money to kind of get them on the road.
Yeah, why do you think that is? I mean, China, obviously has loads of people, loads of workers. Why does China and Chinese companies and investors see the need for these autonomous vans, logistic vans, and taxis to some extent as well?
Yeah, so Neolix, this company's founder, is a longtime entrepreneur in the logistics industry, and his bet is that this industry will be the first to really embrace autonomous driving technology, because there's a real need for delivery companies to reduce cost and make them more reliable. So, China, of course, is a big country with a huge e-commerce market, which means there's also a huge delivery and logistics industry. About 170 billion parcels were delivered last year, which means that's
Wow.
more than 100 per person, for every Chinese person, which means you're getting maybe 2 like Amazon packages a week for every Chinese person. So this is a big market, but it's also very competitive and fragmented, which means the margins for the delivery companies are extremely low. Some companies make like 1 renminbi per parcel.
Whoa.
And so they make up this very low margin. They make it up through scale. And if your car doesn't need a driver, it doesn't need a person that carries the stuff in and out of the trucks, and you can use that like extra space to load more parcels, then yeah, companies of course would want that. That's the thinking. And I think China's other advantage is that the cost of production is very low and falling very rapidly. One of the crucial components for these robovans is the LiDAR, which is like a sensor that maps the environment around the vehicle. The price of this component has fallen like quite rapidly in the past few years. So they're able to produce robovans quite cheaply, and that means they're able to sell or lease the vehicles cheaply as well, which means it kind of increases the pace of adoption. Yeah, I saw some reports that the price of a robovan is already below 20,000 US dollars. So it's already like cheaper than the car.
Wow.
And you can pay them for pay for them in installments. So that's another advantage that China has, I think.
Are these Chinese companies, are they looking at exporting their robovans outside of China, or is it just the Chinese market?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. One of the challenges as a result of this low cost production and this kind of strong supply chain is that there's a huge competition within China that's driving down prices, that's driving down margins for these startups. And so going global, as you said, is a very important kind of goal for these companies. For example, Neolix, Zelos, these companies are expanding trials outside of China in places like the Middle East, also some parts of South Korea as well. But it's still a work in progress, I think, because these countries and these kind of environments are very different from China. Maybe the infrastructure is not as, large scale or well connected. And for example, in the Middle East, one of the challenges that I heard is that some places have a lot of sand on the road. And so it requires more precise, technology to navigate these kind of environments.
And I guess one of the other challenges is that when they do export abroad, they face competition from US companies or maybe even Japanese companies. But would you say the technology that Chinese robovan manufacturers have, they are more advanced than the Western competitors?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Certainly the argument from the Chinese side, like Neolix, is that because their deployment is rising rapidly, they're able to collect more data on the road. That means more data to train their algorithms and improve their, self-driving software. And yeah, like the movement in Futian Station, although they cover a very short distance and it's quite a controlled environment, yeah, it's still very impressive. I think the technology is far from being mature. It's still very slow. Safety is still a big consideration, so they're not deployed in like dense urban areas where a lot of the last mile delivery actually takes place. So I think in order for Chinese or other companies to really start replacing human drivers, you still need a lot more testing, a lot more trials.
But would you say China's headed towards a future where there will be no humans involved in the delivery of goods and parcels, or is this an area where the government would inevitably step in and say, look, you're taking away the jobs of Chinese people, maybe you shouldn't make everything autonomous?
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible that future without this much human drivers become a reality. Along with robovans, there are also other types of technology like drones being used for delivery applications. And there's been some tests where you combine drones and robovans to deliver stuff, because robovans, their capabilities are quite limited, and delivery is a very kind of labor intensive operation where you have people like sorting stuff and then transporting stuff, but also you have to deliver it to the door. If it's an apartment, you have to go into the elevator and stuff. So at the moment, robovans can only replace a very small part of this equation, and they're not good at they cannot fully replace the humans in that function as well. But I think given that there's so much research and just deployment testing of these technologies today, they're certainly racing towards that future. There's a lot of it's the same with robo taxis. There is a lot of anxiety about what is going to be the impact for the jobs. But certainly, given China's kind of ambitions for leading the world in this type of technology, we're certainly doing more and more experimentation towards that goal.
Super interesting. Well, thank you, Wataru, for your time.
Thank you so much, Shotaro.
That's it for this week's episode. You can read Wataru's piece on Chinese robovans, as well as the latest Asian tech news on our website, asia.nikkei.com. You can also subscribe to our weekly Tech Asia newsletter, which will be delivered to your inbox every Thursday. Thank you for tuning in, and see you in our next episode.